Discover how 4 women received unlimited card what the Maid did next will amaze you. Sarah clutched the fraying strap of her purse as she walked toward the school, suppressing the anxiety gnawing at her insides. Just last week, she lost her job at the grocery store, the last anchor keeping her afloat amidst the relentless tides of poverty crashing against her doors. Each step felt heavier as she approached the playground, with the laughter of kids cut through the grayness of her reality. How could she explain to her spirited 8-year-old son, Jake, that sometimes even the hardest effort yields nothing? The ghosts of bills not paid and the specter of eviction lurked in the corners of her mind. The chatter of other single mothers, buoyed by their own struggles, ricocheted around her, but left Sarah untouched, a stranger in a familiar land. Judgments flared in their hushed words as she passed, questioning the validity of her dreams, a stable job, a chance to find herself again. Who was she fooling? Americans like her were supposed to pull themselves up by their bootstraps, but when those boots were worn to tatters, she hesitated outside the school doors, feeling the weight of the world pushing against her like a storm. Rosa approached her, a thin smile dancing across her lips despite the tiredness in her eyes. "I just moved here," she said, her voice a soft whisper. They struck up a conversation, and for the first time in days, Sarah felt a flicker of camaraderie. Rosa's dreams of a catering business resonated within her, whispering of possibility. In that shared space, the burden seemed lighter, if only for a moment. Yet doubts curled at the edges of the warmth, igniting in Sarah's heart. Did she have what it took? Did anyone believe in them? Or were they just fools chasing after fleeting hopes? Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Every meeting filled with promise brought an undertow of fear. Sarah was not only navigating the uncertainty of starting anew, but battling the skepticism of a town that thrived on the familiar routine, the local merchants who rolled their eyes at the audacity of outsiders trying to revive their dreams. Her heart sank again at that familiar critique, an echo of the very judgments she had tried to ignore, surfacing just when she thought progress was within reach. As they exchanged dreams and aspirations, mighty Maid stepped into their lives, weaving wisdom into their tangled lives. But would it be enough? With every glimmer of hope came the dread of imminent failure, an anxiety that threatened to choke her resolve. The push and pull between desperation and determination left her gasping for air. On the day they planned to unveil their small ventures, Sarah's stomach twisted, each twist a reminder that this was more than just a moment. It was a line drawn in the sand between survival and something more. Jake clutched her hand, his little fingers squeezing tightly as cloudy skies loomed overhead, mirroring her turmoil. Would they implode under scrutiny, or could they weave their stories into a fabric strong enough to withstand the storms of weather and circumstance? Lost in this whirlwind of anguish, the rhythm of raindrops started beating against the pavement. In that charged moment, hope tethered to fear. Sarah stood at the precipice of change, uncertain if she would fly or fall. As Sarah stood there, the raindrops drenching her resolve, she forced herself to breathe through the uncertainty. Each inhale filled her with the faint taste of determination, while each exhale released fragments of doubt. She could hear the distant murmurs of other mothers preparing for the planned venture. Were they equally burdened by their dreams? In that moment, with Jake's little hand clasped tightly in hers, a flicker of insight ignited within her. The world had not seen the true Sarah yet. They only glimpsed the outline of her struggles. What if she stepped forward, not as a victim of circumstance, but as a woman ready to reclaim her aspirations? The idea felt both exhilarating and terrifying. Would Rosa, May, and the others view her as a lunatic or a pioneer, With the rain's rhythm matching the pounding of her heart, she formulated a plan. It was time to reshape her narrative. Perhaps, instead of viewing the business ideas as a mere escape, she could view them as the foundation for a future built on her terms. She envisioned herself organizing events, breaking free from the judgments of others, and gathering support from women who grasped the same drive as sisterhood forged in shared struggles. After all, who knew the truth of dreams better than people who chased them? The weight pressing on her chest began to lift as she imagined pitching her vision to Rosa and May, two women who understood her fight. But how would they receive a pitch from someone who had recently lost her job? She shuddered at the thought, the anxiety creeping back like an unwelcome guest. The torrential downpour began to ease, with a few tentative rays of sun breaking through the clouds. Nature had a way of signaling change, and just as the storm was rolling out, Sarah felt emboldened. Today was the day to act. As she and Jake moved into the school, she observed the vibrant faces of children laughing, unaware of the troubles of adulthood. They clung to imagination and uninhibited belief in their ambitious little lives. In their joy, she saw a reflection of her potential. With Jake's bubbly laughter echoing off the walls, Sarah stood in the school hallway, taking a moment to embrace this new resolve. What if I fail? The thought surfaced, but it was swiftly countered by the realization that failure was merely feedback. Each stumble could teach her something new. It was the prospect of stagnation that terrified her more. The sounds of familiar voices gathered into a crescendo in the adjacent room, where Rosa and May were discussing plans over steaming cups of coffee. Their laughter ebbed and flowed like the once stormy clouds that now lingered in memory. Sarah found herself drawn to them, her heart racing as she prepared to step into the warm, welcoming circle. She was ready to voice her dreams, showcase her ideas, and perhaps, just perhaps, ignite a ripple of inspiration in their shared venture. This moment was pivotal, a trajectory change orchestrated by her hand. As she opened the door, the scent of coffee and the faint chatter met her with open arms. But alongside her enthusiasm swirled a twinge of conflict. Would her honesty be met with acceptance? Or would the specter of judgment reappear, armed with its same familiar barbs? Sarah inhaled again, ready to confront her fate. The moment had arrived. She glanced at Jake, who smiled up at her, filled with innocent belief. In that gaze lay the soul of her motivation. She would no longer wear the mask of fear. She would take the plunge as she approached her newfound allies. A tremor of excitement coursed through her veins. This was not merely about entrepreneurship. It was about reclaiming her way, redefining her identity against the backdrop of her struggles. The cheer in the room wrapped around her like a protective shield. She would either soar or stumble, but either way, today would mark the beginning of a lifetime transformation. Just before she uttered the first word, a knock reverberated through the air. The door swung open, unveiling a looming figure. Her heart raced as she recognized the newcomer in. Old acquaintance who had once dismissed her dreams with a cruel laugh. The moment teetered on a knife's edge, and Sarah's breath caught, the wind of possibility abruptly stifled. Would this be a setback or a catalyst for her resolve? The familiar figure standing in the doorway sent a cold wave of doubt surging through Sarah. There was Mia, the very embodiment of past judgments and scorn. While others had embraced change, Mia had remained an unyielding visage of skepticism, her laughter from long ago echoing in Sarah's mind like a sinister reminder of her unfulfilled dreams. The precise moment suspended in time as stares hardened between them, marked by the weight of unspoken words. The cheers of laughter and camaraderie from Rosa and May faded into a distant hum. Each heartbeat pulsed against her ribcage, urging her to take action. In that stillness, she felt the overwhelming urge to turn away and preserve her dignity. But the realization struck her hard. No one could shield her from the past forever, and this encounter was unavoidable. An unintentional breath escaped her lips. It felt like the spontaneous combustion of her plans. Today was supposed to be the launch of a new beginning, not an opportunity for judgment. Yet there Mia stood, and the rage of memories surged to the forefront. How dare she come here now, after all this time? Was she here to scorn or to stop Sarah from revealing her dreams? With her history swirling around her like the remnants of the recent storm, Sarah feigned a smile as she felt her internal tension pull at her resolve. After all, confrontation could be a catalyst for change, just as much as encouragement. "Sarah, is that you?" Mia's tone was laced with a mixture of surprise and feigned warmth, yet beneath it lay a thread of condescension that cut deeper than any witty remark. "Yeah, it's me," Sarah replied, the assertiveness of her voice surprising even herself. Each word she uttered felt like a small triumph against the tide of her emotions. But the uncertainty loomed large. What happened next? The room felt charged, energy crackling like electricity as Sarah refocused on her allies, Rosa and May, who were watching with wide, curious eyes. They had been drawn into the drama, their expressions betraying concern coupled with intrigue. "Funny to see you here. Didn't he think you'd ever show up for something like this?" Mia continued, her gaze darting back and forth between Sarah and the two women. "What is this about?" The probing nature of her question felt like a challenge, but instead of retreating into her familiar self-doubt, Sarah took a deep breath. She refused to give Mia the satisfaction of seeing her rattle. With a newfound clarity, she directed her thoughts inward, thinking of her vision and the excitement that had fueled her since the storm's passing. "I'm here to discuss business ideas," she announced confidently, blaring her intentions as if declaring war against her own insecurities. Mia chuckled lightly, skepticism woven into her laughter. "Business ideas? From you? That sounds rich." A knot formed in Sarah's stomach, but in the specter of judgment, she found unexpected resolve. Mia's disdain would not derail her. It was merely an obstacle to overcome. Her focus was on Rosa and May, their expressions a blend of support and challenge. "What if I shared my vision with you, and let it speak for itself instead?" Sarah challenged, her voice steady. This was no longer about how others perceived her. This was about articulating who she had quietly become amidst the noise of her self-doubt. Before Mia could respond, Rosa broke in. "I'd love to hear what you have in mind, Sarah." Their supportive presence recentered Sarah's footing. This was her moment to leverage her passion. The tension in the room shifted as Sarah began to outline her ideas, words flowing with confidence as they painted a picture of collaboration and empowerment. Mia shifted from disdain to surprise, her expression morphing with each detail shared. As the conversation carried her forward, exhilaration coursed through Sarah's veins. It was no longer just about proving Mia wrong. It was about transforming her life and inspiring others. But beneath that exultation lay a twinge of apprehension of boundary she had never crossed before. Would this newfound path not only change her, but perhaps even stir something in Mia? Just before Sarah could speculate further, another knock echoed through the room. Her heart quickened as she recognized the intensity of the moment. Her trajectory was shifting, but where would it lead her next? The door creaked open slowly, revealing another unexpected face, one that could either solidify her newfound confidence or destabilize it entirely. Who would step into her reality now? Would this further ignite her aspirations, or was it yet another hurdle she had to learn to navigate? As the door swung open, Sarah felt a mix of trepidation and anticipation. The figure that stepped in didn't belong to someone she recognized. It was a tall woman with striking auburn hair and an aura that seemed to command attention even in uncertainty. She paused, scanning the room with an intensity that felt almost palpable, before her gaze settled directly on Sarah. "Hello," she said, her voice smooth but firm. "I'm Lila. I didn't mean to interrupt. I saw the gathering from outside and felt compelled to join." The atmosphere shifted again. Sarah's heart raced. This newcomer's presence was at once energizing and unnerving, as if another layer of complexity was woven into her already tumultuous day. Rosa and May looked equally intrigued, their eyes darting between Lila and Sarah. Actually, if you're here for the ideas being discussed, you're just in time, Sarah said, instinctively stepping into the spotlight that Lila's entrance had created. There was something infectious about the woman standing before her. Maybe it was the confidence she exuded or the curious tilt of her lips that hinted at enthusiasm. Lila raised an eyebrow, the corner of her mouth rising slightly. Oh, I'd love to hear about it. I do enjoy a good idea. Mia, standing off to the side, appeared momentarily forgotten, a shadow of doubt casting over her remark from earlier. This sudden dialogue felt like the world had shifted, obeying new rules that weren't hers to dictate. Yet here she was, in profound disbelief at her capacity to engage. Taking a breath, Sarah began once more, her narrative flowing without inhibition. She explained her vision, an initiative that dared to challenge traditional norms of conventional business practices, fostering connection and empowerment, not just transactions. As she spoke, she noticed Lila leaning forward, her eyes sparkling with interest. For each moment Sarah invested in persuasion, it seemed Lila's fascination grew, feeding an urgency within her to communicate authenticity rather than obligation. Somewhere in the dim recess of her mind, doubt tried to whisper again. Mia's expression was unreadable, a mix of contemplation and disbelief, but in the face of this new challenger, Sarah wasn't about to retreat. Instead, she welcomed the uncertainty, letting it fuel her resolution. Lila interrupted Sarah's cadence with an insightful question, delving deeper into the logistics of her ideas. They engaged in a dynamic discussion, each response building a bridge of credibility that further narrowed the chasm of Sarah's self-doubt and Mia's expectations. It felt exhilarating to engage with someone whose passion matched her own. A small part of her yearned to stretch this moment, to explore the depths of Lila's thoughts while simultaneously revealing the layers of her OW as they discussed possible partnerships. She could sense Mia's growing impatience, yet there was a subtle shift in the energy. It was no longer about her past encounters or the heavy judgment attached to them. It was about the present, her present. Sarah found herself enmeshed in strategizing proposals, the adrenaline propelling her forward until the well of ideas overflowed. However, with each assertion of her newfound abilities, a flicker of vulnerability emerged. So many seemingly critical moments in her life had led her to this table, this captivating dialogue that could unearth new opportunities. But was she truly prepared for whatever unfolded next? Just as this realization washed over her, Lila concluded with a warm smile. You have real potential, Sarah. We could genuinely collaborate. But first, I have one condition. The silence that followed drew Sarah's focus. Had she just unknowingly entered into an exchange where her self-contained aspirations could intertwine with Lila's powerful presence? What is that condition? Sarah's voice came out steadier than she felt. Let me mentor you. The sincerity in Lila's eyes sparked a sense of longing in Sarah, but also a tidal wave of uncertainty. Would she be able to embrace a mentor's guidance? Or was that too much to ask after? Only just beginning to believe in her own worth? As thoughts buzzed through her mind, another knock echoed from the door, fracturing the moment once again. Her heart pounded at the possibility of yet another encounter that could change everything. But a steady voice within prompted her. She must remain open to the challenges and potential growth ahead. Who else would join this conversation, and what impact would they have on the fragile balance Sarah had just begun to establish? The door creaked open, revealing a middle-aged woman with a confident stride and a clipboard clutched tightly against her chest. She looked around the room, her gaze landing on Lila, then flitting towards Sarah. Hello, everyone. I'm Jenna. She introduced herself, her tone brisk but welcoming. I overheard some exciting ideas from the hallway. I'm here to gather insights for an upcoming initiative. Hope you don't mind. Sarah's heart surged with mixed feelings. The presence of yet another unknown could throw her off balance, but instead, it felt like the stakes had risen. Jenna's straightforward demeanor ignited a spark within her, urging her to maintain composure and continue the momentum she had begun with Lila. Not at all, Sarah replied, her voice steady despite the shift in dynamics. We were just discussing new approaches to business strategy, something innovative that emphasizes collaboration over competition. Jenna, her eyes bright with curiosity, moved closer as if driven by an unspoken urgency. I love that concept. It's about time we reinvent the wheel instead of merely polishing it. What specific strategies do you have in mind? As Sarah began to elaborate, outlining her ideas about fostering a supportive network among not just colleagues but competitors, she could sense Lila's engrossed interest alongside Jenna's analytical attention. It felt as if the very air crackled with an electrifying energy, empowering her to articulate her thoughts with fervor. Yet, beneath her rising confidence, a shadow of self-doubt lurked. The recall of past failures, opportunities lost, voices unheard threatened to encumber her current clarity. Was she truly ready to facilitate change or to solicit a mentor in Lila while being scrutinized by two sharp minds? Still, Sarah pressed on. She discussed collaboration workshops, alignment of shared values and partnerships, and the potential for open dialogue that could dismantle conventional barriers. Each idea she voiced felt like a victory, chipping away at the insecurity that once enveloped her. "This is refreshing," Jenna interjected. "We need more of this kind of initiative, especially in environments that are too often cutthroat. It wouldn't hurt to challenge the existing model." Sarah seized the moment, feeding off Jenna's enthusiasm. Her voice gained momentum. Lila's approving nods affirmed Sarah's emerging competence, creating a synergy that felt almost palpable. For the first time, a vision began crystallizing before her, a tangible goal anchored by her own aspirations and supported by others. As the conversation flowed, Sarah felt an internal tug-of-war emerging. While she was taken with the unfolding dialogue, could she seize the breadth of potential being offered or shrink back into the shadows of doubt? Jenna's forthright questions demanded introspection, and Sarah welcomed this new scrutiny. Here lay an opportunity not just to propose ideas, but to shape her understanding of leadership and collaboration. "Sarah, I see so much promise in what you're suggesting," Lila remarked after a thoughtful pause. "The mentorship I offer doesn't simply mold you. It clarifies your vision and emboldens your voice. It's essential to recognize your worth and embrace growth in this industry." The connection they had formed hummed in the air, but as it solidified, Sarah was hit by an unexpected wave of uncertainty. A question simmered beneath her consciousness, stirring her apprehension. Was she willing to relinquish control and allow someone else to steer her journey for a time? "Of course, it's a decision worth considering," Lila continued, sensing Sarah's conflict. "But I challenge you to confront your hesitation. What if stepping out of your comfort zone is precisely the leap you need to forge this new path?" The implications of challenge hung heavy. Sarah's mind buzzed with questions. What would it require of her? Could she abandon the safety of familiarity and dare to be guided? The room felt smaller, the air thick with potential and uncertainty as Jenna shifted, looking expectantly at Sarah. It was a moment of reckoning not just for her ideas but for her identity. Just when Sarah thought she might respond, the tension broke with a sudden pulse of energy as another figure appeared in the doorway. The entrance rippled with unvoiced implications, a reminder that the discussions were far from over, and with it came an avalanche of possibilities and challenges she had yet to foresee. As anticipation built, Sarah couldn't help but wonder, who was this new arrival, and would they fundamentally alter her course again? The figure that stepped into the room was a tall woman with a commanding presence, her brown hair pulled tightly into a sleek bun. She scanned the room with a sharp, assessing look before settling her gaze on Sarah. An invisible thread of tension connected them, each heartbeat amplifying the expectations etched across the newcomer's expressions. "Thank you for indulging us," the woman said, her voice smooth yet authoritative. "I'm Rachel, the head of strategy. Jenna speaks highly of the drive for innovation and collaboration within this team, and I came to listen." With that introduction, Sarah felt both a wave of exhilaration and a sinking pit in her stomach. Here was yet another strong personality, an impressive authority figure who could dictate the trajectory of her aspirations. On one hand, Rachel's arrival felt yet another opportunity, a chance to leave behind fleeting notions of inadequacy. But as the gaze of three seasoned professionals landed on her, doubt quickly slithered back in, threatening to curl around her thoughts. "Thank you for joining us, Rachel," Sarah managed to articulate, exertion evident in her voice. "We were discussing a collaborative strategy framework that emphasizes partnership, transparency, and shared goals." As she spoke, Sarah noticed Rachel's eyes narrow slightly, her expression betraying a hint of skepticism. Was Sarah's vision resonating with Rachel, or had she merely committed a faux pas? A pulse of desperation threaded through Sarah's mind as she navigated this precarious moment. "Interesting approach," Rachel replied, her tone unyielding. "But tell me, how do you foresee convincing our stakeholders to invest in this collaborative model? The traditional bottom line trumps abstract ideals in boardrooms every time. Isn't it too risky?" The question hit Sarah like a cold gust of wind on a winter morning. Her heart raced, caught between a fervent fire for innovation and the looming specter of fear that her ideas might crumble under scrutiny. Rachel's challenge demanded a response that combined confidence and clarity, qualities she was still wrestling to deliver consistently. "I believe," she began, summoning each syllable with intention, "that more and more companies are recognizing the changing economic landscape. Collaboration can enhance productivity and drive down costs. We'll propose pilot programs and collect data to demonstrate tangible benefits before full implementation. It's a gradual process, one that steadily aligns with profitability." Could her voice really withstand the sharp edge of Rachel's analysis? Sarah felt her pulse quicken, adrenaline threading through her veins. Yet, as Jenna and Lila watched intently, she realized that this was her moment to reshape the perception others held of her. Rachel's expression softened slightly, considering Sarah's response. "That's a nice pivot, but how do you plan to ensure buy-in from the very competitors you want to collaborate with? Convincing those deeply entrenched in a cutthroat mentality will require more than statistics." The darkness of doubt still loomed, but the glint of clarity sparked as Sarah pondered the question. Was she attempting only to bridge a chasm, or was this a call for visionary leadership, a chance to rise above what she feared? "Well," she responded, her posture straightening, "we could frame the collaboration as a competitive advantage. By illustrating success stories that highlight the benefits of working together, we can shift mindsets. It's imperative we create value beyond profit, based on relationships that last longer than a quarterly report." The room seemed charged, a palpable energy thrumming through the air as a dawning realization lit Sarah's mind. Leadership wasn't solely about authority. It was about courage, the courage to confront fears, connect through honesty, and foster an environment that nurtured growth. "I appreciate the insights," Rachel said, her voice gripping with palpable interest. "But you'll have to navigate the complexities that lie ahead very carefully, especially if you're considering mentorship in this cutthroat environment. Are you truly ready to undertake such a mantle?" With every question Rachel posed, Sarah felt the fabric of her identity begin to weave together stronger than before. This was an opportunity not just to seek mentorship, but to embody the values she preached. Would she dare to embrace the very challenges Rachel had laid out? Jenna leaned in, her gaze unwavering. "Sarah, reflecting on those complexities could shape your ascent in this industry," she encouraged. "The question is, how will you choose to rise?" As the questions settled in the charged atmosphere, waiting to be answered, a profound silence enveloped the room. This wasn't merely a matter of ideas. The stakes had transformed into something much more personal. Sarah's destiny loomed on the horizon, but would she muster the resolve to seize it? In that pivotal moment, her heart raced, anticipating a defining choice. As the specter of doubt clashed with the ember of determination, Sarah braced herself for the tremors of transformation. What lay beyond this threshold? Would she discover the conviction to follow through, Or would she falter? The answers, fiery and unrelenting, were right at the cusp of her grasp. The remaining silence in the room was palpable, stretching like an elastic band ready to snap. Sarah felt the weight of unresolved tension pressing against her chest. Rachel's inquiry was not merely a challenge. It was an invitation to stretch beyond her perceived limitations. The stakes had never felt higher, and yet, in this moment, Sarah sensed a flicker of clarity, a pivotal juncture, awakening a determination buried deep within her. As she contemplated her response, Sarah's mind drifted momentarily, flitting through memories of her past. She recalled the many times fear had stifled her ambitions, each instance a thread in the weaving of her identity. But that was then. The person she was becoming craved a different narrative, one defined not by self-doubt, but by audacity. With a renewed sense of purpose, Sarah leaned forward slightly, her eyes locked on Rachel. "I understand the risks involved," she replied, feeling the words form almost naturally. "But I also see an opportunity to redefine our approach to competition. Instead of viewing it as a zero-sum game, we could engage in relationships that amplify our collective strengths. ISNT that what innovation is about transforming competition into collaboration." She noted Rachel's eyebrow raise, a subtle sign of challenge met with unexpected insight. Perhaps this was the moment to elevate the conversation further. Imagine how powerful a coalition might be if we embraced ideas from our competitors instead of shunning them. We could curate a think tank, a cross-industry forum aimed specifically at sharing insights and addressing common challenges. This isn't just about selling more, it's about leading a sector-wide transformation. The words felt bold, electrifying, lifting Sarah's spirits above the murmur of trepidation. Instinctively, she connected back to the heart of her intentions, fostering a culture where collaboration was not merely encouraged but celebrated. She felt the shift within her. This was growth incarnate, a flowering of leadership she hadn't fully grasped until now. Rachel's response was tethered somewhere between skepticism and intrigue. That's optimistic, Sarah, but optimism without a structure is just wishful thinking. You need a concrete plan to present to persuade individuals that really only care about one thing: their profit margin. How will you handle that? The challenge was real and immediate. Sarah could feel the intensity in the air, and she realized this was the moment to dig deep within her reservoir of ideas. We can identify specific pain points across the board that are universally acknowledged: supply chain inefficiencies and unsustainable practices. For example, by highlighting mutual pain, we create a common ground upon which to build a collaborative model. The allure of a combined solution would ideally address their needs while showcasing the value of collaboration. Momentarily cautious, but feeling the momentum build, Sarah remained vigilant against the rising tide of doubt. There lay an uncharted terrain ahead, where fear could manifest like a specter. She had to reject that. Still, she questioned if even this revitalized version of herself was truly enough. "I see you understand the complexities laid before you," Rachel acknowledged, her voice layered with newfound regard. "The intellect is present, but can you implement this vision while navigating the inevitable pushback? Your perseverance will be tested, believe me." The tension was electric, yet something inside Sarah surged with excitement. This was the crucible, the moment of testing, not just for her ideas, but for her very self. This was a battleground where her resolve would fray if she allowed those pangs of insecurity to seep in. Would she tap into her inner reservoir of resourcefulness and fight for her vision? Absolutely, she affirmed, surprising even herself with her steadfastness. This isn't just about an abstract concept anymore. It's personal. My commitment is resolute, and I'm ready to back it up with action, even if it means facing waves of resistance. After she spoke, the silence pulsated anew with an undeniable energy. Jenna's approving nod and Lila's encouraging smile illuminated Sarah's determination. She was no longer adrift, and the path she'd tread upon was becoming more defined. Yet, as Rachel contemplated her words, a lingering question hung about the intersection of acknowledgement and action, the crossroads where intentions met reality. Despite the growing momentum, a shadow of uncertainty flickered at the periphery of Sarah's mind. The realm outside the glass doors seemed more daunting with each passing moment. Would the fortitude she exuded morph into resilience in the face of real-world implications? The challenge of stepping into true leadership loomed large on her horizon, and just as she steeled herself against the unfolding uncertainties, Rachel broke the tension with her next question. So, will you lead that charge, or are you just spinning a rosy tale? With that challenge hitting her with newfound intensity, Sarah grappled with gravity. The truth was stark. Leadership required vulnerability and strength, and she had to decide how far she was willing to stretch herself. Would she embrace this daunting role and the real risks it entailed? Would she combat the inner skepticism while amplifying her voice, persuading others along the way? The choice had been laid bare, a clarion call echoing through her thoughts. Yet the clarity in her vision collided with the dauntless reality of implementation. Would she rise and embrace this challenge, or would fear tether her aspirations to the ground? As the questions reverberated within her, Sarah readied herself for the rite of passage, the decision that would clarify her destiny on this path to authentic leadership. A low hum resonated throughout the room as Sarah adjusted to the gravity of Rachel's challenge. The flicker of possibility she had ignited now felt like a delicate flame, fiercely bright, yet perilously close to being extinguished by the winds of doubt. Would she allow her aspirations to stall under the weight of hesitance? The faces of her colleagues lingered in her mind, each of them a reflection of the journey she'd undertaken, but also a reminder of the obstacles ahead. Sarah tucked her chin in and took a breath, trying to isolate her thoughts from the doubts swirling in her head. Was she genuinely ready to lead? The answer remained murky. Okay, she affirmed, voice steady yet edged with vulnerability. I know leadership is more than a title. It's about action and responsibility. I have to map out a clear strategy that resonates beyond ambition. How do I engage my colleagues without sounding naive? Jenna and Lila were watching attentively. Sarah could not afford to falter now. She had to devise a plan and solidify her vision, not just for herself, but for them as well. The stakes demanded resoluteness. She reminded herself. Stepping out, taking risks, and occasionally stumbling could culminate in groundbreaking changes. Let us start by doing our homework, she said. We can gather data on industry competitors to understand their approaches to collaboration. What obstacles are they tackling independently that we could address together? This isn't mere speculation. Let us find the tangible effects of an alliance. Excitement surged within her as she outlined her preliminary thoughts. Each sentence born of trepidation transformed into a strategy, anchoring her belief that collaboration could be a powerful tool in driving both innovation and profit. They would need clarity in purpose and a vision that enticed everyone involved. However, for the first time, her internal conflict surfaced more visibly. What if they resisted? Dealing with that rejection would be the crucial test of her mettle. I have to believe this matters to them, she murmured, half under her breath, attempting to convince herself. Lila broke the silence, injecting a note of practicality. You can't just expect everyone to share your enthusiasm. You need to build trust first. Empathy will be key in getting them to come aboard your vision. Right? Empathy. Sarah knew it would indeed require active listening, understanding both the aspirations and fears lurking in the hearts of her colleagues. Leaning into the notion, she thought of preparing an in-depth survey that encouraged transparency and fostered candid feedback on the challenges they faced. What pain points could be resolved together? Jenna nodded approvingly. That is a great start. Open communication with clear questions would give everyone a voice. It's hard to say no when people feel heard. Yes, this newfound grounding reinvigorated Sarah. She felt as if she were accumulating fuel, each suggestion adding to a building fire. But fear still clung to the edges of her resolve like a shadow. Would they embrace her vision, or would she wade into the waters of resistance alone? The key will also be aligning their goals with collaboration. Sarah pressed forward as visuals danced in her mind. I need to illustrate how this can enhance their work and drive greater returns. If I can communicate that connection, perhaps we can transform their skepticism into commitment. The idea formed beyond mere ambition. She could initiate a discussion that tied their aspirations together rather than threatening their individuality. Each response she crafted would elevate her own understanding, turning encounters into opportunities. As Sarah jotted down notes, her internal monologue shaped her thoughts into manageable actions. But beneath her growing confidence, a whisper of doubt echoed. Transitioning from concept to reality was laden with uncertainties and unyielding tests. The room enclosed her once more, but outside, the world pulsed with possibilities ready to be seized. Just as she readied herself to consolidate the next steps, Rachel's final words cut through the air, a potent reminder that lingering challenges awaited. Be prepared, Sarah. The pushback will come, and when it does, remember why you started. In that instant, Sarah felt the palpable tension rise yet again. The pressure unveiled. Would she bend, or would she confront this impending wave of resistance with the strength she had just begun to cultivate? The ultimatum she faced rose sharply, and as she caught Rachel's gaze, she felt the raw intensity of what lay ahead. A moment was closing in a pivotal confrontation with not just the expectations of her colleagues, but with the embodiment of her evolving self. The question remained, would Sarah emerge as the leader she aspired to be, or would she find herself overwhelmed by the very challenges she sought to address? The days passed like a fast-moving train, each moment intensifying Sarah's commitment to her emerging role as a leader. As she prepared for the upcoming meetings, a knot tightened in her stomach. This wasn't just about proposing ideas anymore. This was about navigating a landscape filled with uncertainty and potential rejection. In her mind, a plan bloomed. She'd conduct a series of informal one-on-one discussions with her colleagues before the larger meeting, threading her way through the fabric of the team. The goal was clear: gain momentum before the official pitch. She envisioned walking into those conversations with a blend of confidence and curiosity. Listening intently would be just as critical as conveying her vision. The day of her first conversation arrived. She approached Kevin, a seasoned expert who had weathered the storms of corporate setbacks. His reputation for skepticism was well known, yet Sarah saw him as the cornerstone of her potential influence. "Can we chat for a minute?" she asked, voice steady but infused with an undercurrent of anxious energy. Sitting across from him in the break room, she laid out her aspirations, detailing how their collective efforts could lead to innovation. But as the words rolled off her tongue, a sinking feeling lodged itself in her chest. She hoped for enthusiasm, but his brows knitted deeper with skepticism. "I mean, it sounds great in theory," Kevin replied slowly, taking a sip of his coffee. "But in practice? When have we ever succeeded in changing the way we operate?" The question cut through her with a sharp edge. Was he right? Had they always been trapped in the status quo? Summoning her inner resolve, she pushed back gently, speaking not only to him but to herself as well. "That's exactly why I want to explore this together. We can't keep doing things the same old way and expect different results. I trust that our experience can amplify these efforts." He paused, considering her words, but a weary sigh escaped his lips. "Trust is built, Sarah, sometimes the hard way. You really think they'll back you on this?" His doubt hung in the air, a stark reminder of the uphill battle that lay ahead. Still, an ember of determination flickered within her, igniting a stronger resolve. "Let us find out," she said deliberately. "Let us start by mapping out those obstacles you mentioned. I believe if we confront them together, we'll be stronger." Kevin regarded her, his expression softening slightly. "I admire your gumption. Just don't be surprised if it's tougher than you think." After their talk, Sarah felt a renewed surge of clarity. Each challenge presented itself as an opportunity for growth, not just hers, but for the entire team. If she could tackle Kevin's concerns head-on, perhaps others would follow suit. As she engaged more colleagues, she found a spectrum of reactions. Some embraced her vision immediately, their enthusiasm palpable. Others, however, stood firmly anchored in skepticism, testing her patience and resolve. Each meeting was a crucible, forcing Sarah to confront her self-doubt and strengthen her conviction. She discovered an unexpected strength in her adaptability and agile mind that could pivot in real time. When challenged or met with hesitation, her strategy evolved. She embraced the art of colorful storytelling, weaving personal anecdotes of failures and triumphs that reframed abstract ideas into relatable scenarios that by the end of the week, the reaction solidified into a clearer pattern. The engagement levels diverged sharply. Those who felt heard opened up further, sharing deeper frustrations and aspirations they hadn't voiced before. Each conversation chipped away at the walls of resistance. Yet, lurking within the shadows of her newfound momentum was a nagging worry. Had she misread the room completely? Were her colleagues truly on board? Or were they simply indulging her sense of optimism? With each day, she faced internal battles, haunted by the impending larger meeting where the collective apprehensions would converge. As the date crept closer, a dull panic set in. Would the momentum she'd built withstand the scrutiny of doubt, or would it fade under the weight of expectations? The answer simmered just out of reach, a reflection of the state of her own leadership. As the clock ticked down to the pivotal meeting, Sarah found herself standing at the crossroads of possibility and fear. The stakes were becoming painfully real, and the weight of potential failure loomed large. The time had come to confront the full spectrum of her colleagues' reactions and embrace whatever came next. Would she leave behind the fragile flame of ambition and step into the commanding light of leadership, or would she falter at the moment that could define her? As the day of the meeting dawned, the anticipation transformed into a palpable tension. Sarah stood in the mirror, adjusting her blazer, each wrinkle smoothed against her resolve. Today was not merely another step. It was the culmination of her journey, one fueled by fear, perseverance, and the determination to redefine her narrative. Walking into the conference room, she felt the weight of every questioning glance upon her. Seated around the table were familiar faces, many curious about the idea she had been passionately discussing over the past weeks. She took a deep breath, summoning the strength crafted through countless conversations. This was her moment. This was where she would prove to herself and her colleagues that change was not only possible, it was imperative. "Thank you all for being here today," Sarah began, scanning the room. The apprehension was palpable, yet beneath it lay an undercurrent of hope and anticipation. "What I am proposing is a collaborative model that challenges the norms we have been entrenched in, fostering partnerships that elevate our potential both as individuals and as a company." As she articulated her vision, Sarah felt the once familiar pangs of doubt begin to dissipate. Instead, her words flowed with newfound confidence. She presented her strategic framework, citing industry examples where collaboration had led to unprecedented breakthroughs. Each statistic reinforced her narrative, grounding her aspirations in tangible evidence. Questions arose, some probing and skeptical, yet rather than lingering in uncertainty, Sarah engaged thoughtfully, transforming those moments into opportunities for dialogue. Kevin's skepticism resurfaced, but rather than falter, she embraced his challenge, illustrating how collaboration could enable efficiency and subsequently enhance profit margins. With each answer, her conviction solidified. She was no longer just defending an idea. She was embodying the role of a leader. Building trust takes time, and I understand that skepticism is inherent, she continued, addressing the room. But if we don't take risks, we risk stagnation. I've experienced the constraints of limitation. It's time we collectively move toward solutions that empower us rather than bind us. The conversation shifted from mere skepticism to exploration. Colleagues began to share their thoughts, voicing concerns while also providing suggestions. This was not just a pitch. It was an invitation to co-create. Sarah felt the energy in the room transform, optimism weaving its way through threads of doubt, creating a tapestry of shared aspirations. As the meeting reached its climax, Rachel leaned back, a smile slowly inching onto her face. You've articulated a vision that resonates not just with optimism, but with a strategy that is actionable. I see potential here, provided we approach this methodically. The words washed over Sarah like sunlight breaking through clouds after a storm. Each acknowledgement felt like a validation of her journey. She was being recognized not just for ideas, but as a leader in her own right. As the meeting concluded, Sarah felt a sense of accomplishment resonate through her veins. She had faced the tempest of fear and emerged empowered, a woman with a vision who had proven to herself that what she longed for was within reach. The support of her colleagues buoyed her confidence, transforming the collective atmosphere into a fertile ground for innovation. That evening, standing in her kitchen while Jake chattered about his day, Sarah reflected on her transformation. She had reclaimed her narrative, stepping into her identity not merely as a survivor of past judgments, but as a pioneering architect of her destiny. Her work had just begun, and with a solid plan now in motion, she envisioned a future where collaboration defined success not just for her, but for everyone willing to journey alongside her. As they enjoyed a pizza dinner, a sense of pride washed over her. The transformative process had shaped her into someone who could embrace vulnerability, inspire others, and seek authenticity in every interaction. Empowered, Sarah smiled down at Jake, whose laughter filled the air. Tomorrow, she said softly, we start something incredible. Each moment of the past had led her here, each struggle metamorphosed into a revelation of her strength. The precipice of potential lay before her. She was ready to leap, soaring into a future filled with endless possibilities. Now is the moment when your journey can intersect with countless others. You need to subscribe now to be part of thrilling transformations like Sarah's. Don't wait even one more second to share this inspiring story. Let your friends discover their own paths to achievement. Leave a like now to empower others and feed the algorithm, showcasing your support for life-changing narratives. Comment your reactions and thoughts. Together, let us keep the momentum going. Spread the word and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness this profound journey.